So I want to say thanks to the board. I am honored and humbled to be here tonight. I don't want to have my back to folks. This has been quite a long process, and they have at each step kind of said, okay, this is the next test. And then a few days ago it was the final test. But it seems to me that speaking to a group of people after 10 o'clock at night is the final test of your process. So I will not forget that for sure. So I just want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about myself. It's something that I don't do a lot of, and I know in this process, these first few months, that's the most important thing I probably need to do. And while some of you are talking, it's always kind of hard to hear people, say nice things about you, but it was kind words were shared, so thank you. So just a quick thumbnail sketch of my career. As it has been mentioned, I was a 4th and 5th grade teacher in Baltimore in the 90s for 5 years. After that, I went down to Charlottesville, Virginia to get my master's in administration, and thought I was going to go back into teaching, and ended up becoming an assistant principal in Charlottesville at an elementary school for 2 years. I switched school districts. I went to Albemarle County, which is the district that surrounds Charlottesville, and I was an elementary principal in 2 different buildings for 11 years. And during my time there, I worked with someone who ended up coming to Ithaca, Landahl Brown, and he's been the superintendent for the last 6 years. He just won Superintendent of the Year for New York, and I'm going to let him know that I mentioned that. I get paid every time I say it. But he kind of lured me up to Ithaca, and I had a fantastic 5 years. I'm in the midst of my 5th year. During my time, I started as the chief elementary officer. For a brief kind of reorganization time, I was the chief academic officer. And then for the last 2 years, I've been the deputy superintendent. Things that have guided me for my leadership throughout my career are having trust as the foundation of everything that I do and that we do. I don't think you get anything accomplished without that. But one thing I've learned is talking about trust is kind of not worth a lot. Earning trust is what it's all about. And so earning trust happens through action and building relationships and listening and working together. Some other things that I think kind of highlight my leadership are a sense of humility. I have 2 people at home that keep me very humble. One is 5 years old, one person's 5, and I won't mention the age of the other person. But when a week or 2 ago, we were kind of really getting my son in the zone of we're moving, and so I first told him, well, I'm going to be the superintendent. Not that he really knows what that is. He's 5, but and so he knows Landahl, my boss right now. He said, "Landahl's retiring." No. In Beacon, remember we went there, back in December, and so his first statement was, "Are you going to be in charge of everybody?" And I kind of puffed up, thinking, "Yeah, my son, this is cool." And I was about to say yes, and then my wife was in the kitchen, and she said, "I think it's the other way around." And so Jonah kind of nodded, like, "Yeah, that's probably the way it's going to be." So they keep me humble. The other thing that I will always aim to do is always focus on learning and always focus on young people. Always. I think a lot of times administrators, we get lost in a lot of stuff. And the stuff is important, but we always need to bring it back to learning. We always need to bring it back to engaging our young people and empowering them every single day. So in thinking about ways to kind of explain who I am a little bit, I thought on the drive here of a few quotes that have meant a lot to me in my career. And then kind of sharing just a little bit of background about why those quotes are important. The first quote is, "Nobody cares about how much you know until they know how much you care." And that's I may have mixed up a word or two, but that's a very common quote in the education world, right? You have to build relationships first. The reason that quote is important to me is my first year teaching in Baltimore was very hard. I was different than everybody in my school, and I was struggling with just about every aspect of the teaching and learning process in my classroom. the neighbor teacher sort of next to me, after about a month of sort of watching me flail around, said, "Can I talk to you after school?" Sure. So she came in, she talked to me for a few minutes about things I needed to do, but then she said that quote, "They don't care about what you know until they know how much you care." And so, I drove home that night, and instead of lesson planning and doing all the stuff that really wasn't working anyway, I thought about that. And so that quote really started to shift the way I was thinking about how I was approaching that classroom. Things did not change overnight, but what I started doing was things like, "Hey, let's have a chess club. Yeah, you can join me for lunch." After school, I got some, used athletic equipment and just ended up sort of on the playground just hanging out with my kids and playing catch. Visiting their families' homes, getting to know the parents. All those things started to build up, and the classroom, for me, became a much different place. It became positive. It became like a family. And like it's mentioned, I stayed sort of way past what my commitment was. I stayed for 5 years. And that was probably the hardest place I've ever left when I went down to grad school. The second quote I want to share is this one. Never ask anyone to do anything that you're not willing to do yourself. The person who said that to me, although I'm sure other people have said, the person who said that to me is my mom, Carolyn. She was a 30-year elementary teacher in suburban Chicago. I spent many dinners sitting there listening to her talk bad about people like me. Her principal, her assistant superintendent, her superintendent, it was usually not positive. She was a tough critic. Fair, but tough. So when I went into administration, I could tell that she was proud, but a little disappointed. We taught the same grade when we taught. We had this huge bonding experience about it, and when I told her, she was like, "Really? Are you sure?" But then she said that quote, "Don't ever ask anyone to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself." So that guided me in my years of being an elementary principal. If it was helping a teacher put a bulletin board up, helping the folks out at recess, helping in the cafeteria, riding the bus with the kids to make sure they had a calm ride home, helping with just about every aspect. When you do that kind of stuff, you see people start to do amazing things. And in both schools I was in, I saw teachers start to take a lot of risks in a good way with project-based learning and trying new things and experimenting. It was really a powerful thing to see. At this level, it's a little bit harder to do that because I'm in charge of a lot of things. So I'm not going to teach Algebra 2. That would be bad. Math is not my thing. And I wouldn't drive a bus. I don't have a CDL. But I think how it impacts me at this level is if I ask someone to be collaborative, I need to be collaborative too. If I ask someone to be flexible, I need to be flexible too. If I ask someone to hold themselves accountable or each other accountable, I need to be accountable too. So I will hold that promise with you all in speaking to folks outside this room. I won't ever ask you to do anything that I won't do myself. The last quote I have is I'm not going to name the person I'm quoting because she'll be mortified that I'm quoting her right now. But her quote is, "Don't worry, we got this." So that quote came to me as a parent about a year and a half ago. I have a recently turned 5-year-old, and for the first couple of years, between age 2 and 4.5, he went through a number of surgeries and things to get both of his legs working in sort of a more typical fashion. And with that process, he spent a lot of time in hospitals, a lot of time in casts, countless hours with physical therapists, OTs. That work continues. He's doing great now. But when we got into this pre-K special class, it's called in Ithaca, in our district, we were a mess as a family. We were tired, exhausted, burnout, We met with this teacher, we started talking, and she just kind of put her hand up. And she said, just wait a second. I just want to tell you something. We got this. It's going to be okay. We got this. And so that quote has always stuck with me for the last year and a half. And this person watching her teach my son that year was just completely inspiring. I think it's important for me for a couple of reasons. One is the fact that we needed that lifeline as a family in that moment, despite the fact that I was the deputy superintendent of the district and, had a lot of resources at my disposal and lots of privilege. We needed that help. We needed that lifeline. And that's what schools should do. That's what we should do for all folks. The other reason I think that quote really resonates with me is the word we. She didn't say I. She didn't say, I've got it. She said we. And so when she said that, she was talking about a few things. She was talking about the people in her classroom, the paraprofessionals. She was talking about the OT and the PC on the team. She was talking about the school nurse and the principal. And she was talking about me. And she was talking about my wife. That we meant a lot. And she said that we throughout that year. And a couple of times she had to do it. We got this with us when we were stressed out and feeling like things weren't, improving fast enough. So I am just beyond excited to be starting here in the summer. I want to talk about transition for a second. I have a very, as you can imagine, engaged job in Ithaca. I will be continuing that up until the bitter end. But I will be making visits to Beacon on a regular basis to get the transition process started and going. Few things I'll do is be part of the vision team meetings. Moving forward, I'll be planning with the administrative team as they work on initiatives for next year. And I'll work with the board in identifying some other things I should be a part of as this transition goes. I will also work on some ways to communicate with the community during this time because it is kind of a long transition. It's a little bit longer than normal. It was really important for me in this process that despite my eagerness to start here, that my son was able to finish his school year because that would have been tough for us as a family. So we have a few things left to do on our end. Right now I am working on some things with my son. We're doing some negotiating. He's making sure right now that we're going to bring our cat with us when we move. He's making sure we're going to bring our dog. Right now we're working on how many Legos he can bring with us. I don't think what he hasn't figured out yet is like the moving truck will take all the Legos, but I'm sort of using that right now to my advantage. Don't tell him that when you see him. So we're working out some stuff as a family. As a family, we're really excited about this, but we're also nervous and apprehensive just moving to a new place. But we are very, very excited. So with that said, I think you all in this room and people outside this room and the board and the administration have had sort of a we got this attitude for the last year, and I just wanted to join in on that. That's how I feel about it. I think that's what we're going to do. And I'm very, very excited to be working with you. So on that note, thank you.